Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you to eXp Realty for sponsoring today's episode. Talent Finders would like to welcome Jessica Friesen, author of the book as well as CEO of the company. It's called This Will Not Break Me. So welcome, Jessica.
Hi there. How are you?
Good, and you? Nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Great. So, Jessica, obviously, firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on your first book, This Will Not Break Me. So, could you share with us more about the book and what compelled and motivated you to write the book?
Sure. So, This Will Not Break Me is my personal journey with mental illness. I suffered from postpartum depression after the birth of my first child back in 2007. And my life has changed significantly since then. Prior to 2007, I was a registered nurse. After 2009, I entered my family business, which is petroleum retail and wholesale in Ontario, Canada. The precipice for me writing my book was really, I had shared a little bit of my story at an event within my community, and the reaction to me just mentioning that I had suffered from postpartum depression and that I was a successful business individual now, that really seemed to resonate with people in the audience. I had several of them coming up to me after I spoke saying, thank you so much for being honest. And I received emails and phone calls afterwards. And I had really just kind of touched on the surface of what my struggle with postpartum depression had been like. It was really just kind of a sidebar in the event and in the speech that I provided for the event. And I thought, if my story can help people out there, then I want to tell my story. I really feel very strongly that through education and understanding, we can help to break the stigma around mental health, that it takes strong individuals that are willing to speak about their experiences. Those are the people that are going to change the world. And those are the people that are going to change the way that society looks at mental health. So that moment, that event really showed me that my story could help people. And that's really what compelled me to write This Will Not Break Me. It was a couple of years of venture. That event was back in 2019.
Yeah.
And that's really what started my journey.
Amazing. So I obviously want to talk about mental health, which you obviously touched on in the first question, but this has become an even more critical and even more amplified now more than ever. So can you share with us more about this, having gone through your own experience and the importance of your own personal journey and how this impacted and influenced you?
Absolutely. Growing up, my father ran our family company. I'm the third generation owner-operator. And I saw my parents and how involved they were in my community and trying to make my community a better place for those that are less fortunate than us. Yes. And that really hit home with me. And that kind of morphed for me into interest in healthcare. And that's why I became a registered nurse. So I have always had a passion for helping people and for making the world a better place, really. Now, in the 14 years since I experienced postpartum depression, the world has changed significantly. Back in 2007, people were not talking about postpartum depression. It was still taboo. People really weren't talking about mental health at all. In the last 14 years, that story has changed, and it's more in the forefront now, especially after the pandemic. People are more aware than ever about mental health and the need to support others and the need to really reach out and contact other people and make sure that they're okay, which is absolutely wonderful, but we can still do better. And that's really where I am going in this journey of mine, is helping to break the stigma around mental health, helping to draw attention to normalizing the conversation and changing the way that people look at mental health in its entirety, and also postpartum depression, postpartum baby blues specifically, because when you're a new parent or when you're pregnant, you're told about all the good things, all the wonderful things that you can look forward to.
All rainbows and unicorns.
That's right, and that's not the truth of the matter.
No,
Being
it's
a
not.
parent is hard,
Yeah.
and as much as we want to have that conversation and yes, talk about all the wonderful things that may happen, we also want to prepare individuals for the reality of what they are going to experience.
Yeah, for sure. So just going back slightly before all of this, obviously you've achieved so much and have graduated from one of the most prestigious universities in Canada, practiced as a registered nurse for several years. So you talk about the birth of your son and how you suffered from postpartum depression, and you struggled with this obviously for a long period after. So please, can you share with us more about this and how it impacted your mental health and what were the stigmas attached at that time?
When I was pregnant with my son, I was a registered nurse, and I had graduated from the University of Western Ontario, which is one of the most prestigious universities in Canada. I received a very fulsome education. And so I felt that I was very educated in terms of healthcare as a whole, but also in mental health. I had an idea about depression and anxiety and postpartum depression. So I felt like I was well prepared to become a mother. It all changed when I was going through the struggles myself, because my postpartum depression, if I could nail it down to one trigger, was caused by a reaction to Demerol. I had Demerol for pain management while I was in labor. I'm one of the 1 in a million people who are allergic to it, we found out.
Wow.
It affected me. I was hallucinating. It affected my son. His oxygen was very low when he was born, and he had to spend the first few nights in the neonatal ICU. And that really, I say something broke. And that's why one of the reasons why my book is called This Will Not Break Me, because
Yes.
I really felt that something broke in that moment. I was separated from my son. No one was really telling me what the truth of the situation was or what was going on. And something broke in that moment. And it started me off on the wrong foot to be a mother. So then when I went home and I started really struggling, we were new parents. We were young. I was 25 years old at the time, but I was a registered nurse. I felt like I should be able to recognize what postpartum depression looked like. So I just assumed that I was going through what every other new mom goes through, that, the terror that I had was simply something that people didn't talk about. Not that I was any different. It wasn't until my postpartum depression lasted about 6 months. And it wasn't until I started feeling better and feeling confident and feeling that I could handle what was happening that I recognized that it really wasn't normal. It wasn't okay. And I needed help.
Yeah. And what were some of the effects of that? I mean, was it the physical and emotional, or was it just the emotional side?
It was physical and emotional. I had days where getting out of bed was difficult. I had days where I would get up and do almost nothing. The things that I prioritized were making sure that my son was fed, was clean, clothed. But in that first 6 months, it sounds strange, but I felt nothing for my son in that 6 months. Everybody always talks about the moment of birth and you fall so heavily in love with your child. I felt absolutely nothing. I didn't love him. I didn't hate him. I just knew that I had this baby at home that I had to take care of, and I could not handle any more than those three things.
No.
I stayed in my house. I did not go out of my house because in my house, my world was controlled. Outside of my house was the unknown, and I felt like I could not handle that. The only time that I went out was if my husband was around or if my mother was around. My husband knew that there was something going on, but he didn't realize the extent of it because I hid it very, very well.
Yeah.
But I was having recurring nightmares about the authorities realizing that I was incapable of taking care of my son and showing up at my door to take him away, I was very scared that anyone was going to realize that I was incapable of being a mother and was going to take my son away. I liken the way that I felt to being sucked into a black hole. You're feeling stretched, you can't breathe, and your whole body is under pressure. And you're looking around and everything in your reality seems distorted. And it's because for me, it was like living in someone else's body most of the time.
Was it just sort of like an out-of-body experience?
Very much so. It was like watching my hands and my feet and my body doing what needed to be done, but not really feeling like I was a part of it.
Wow. So was there help and support provided at the time? And do you believe that the awareness and treatment has improved since going through what you went through?
I think that's a very important question. In 2007, my son was born in June. And back then, all of the programs that were offered to new mothers that were provided on any consistent basis were winding down. They were winding down with the school year. So there were a few hit or miss programs through June, July, and August, but there wasn't anything that I was aware of that was a consistent weekly or bi-weekly group that I could attend that would provide me the support that I didn't know I needed. That support came in September when programs started ramping back up. And I took part in a program called Baby Talk. And Baby Talk was a once-a-week program where new moms and their babies got together in a big group. I think there was 15 of us. And we talked about all of the real problems that we were having, whether that was breastfeeding or bottle feeding or diapers or sleep training or whatever. And in that environment, I finally started to realize that there are other people that were struggling with the same things I was struggling with, but also that it was an environment where there was no judgment. It was an environment where we were all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's so important because I think that's the issue. Like even now, there's so much judgment.
Absolutely.
I think in certain environments it's better, but I think like if you talk about, I don't know whether you experienced PTSD or any of those, if that was part of your postpartum depression, but I think that's the whole thing is there's people, the stigma and the judgment that goes with that. So if you can find an environment where people are not that way and can relate, I think it's very important.
Absolutely. It's critical to be provided an environment where you can be honest and not feel judged.
Yeah.
And I think that education is absolutely critical. We need people to understand that mental illness does not discriminate. It does not matter what gender you are, what race you are, what your socioeconomic status is. Anyone can be diagnosed with a mental illness. My postpartum depression was really just the beginning for me. I recognize now that, I have trouble with depression. I have trouble with anxiety, but now I have been able to advocate for myself and gather the support that I need in order to function well on a day-to-day basis. And I'm very successful now.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was me advocating for myself. I would love to see the day where the conversation around mental health is normalized to the point where if you're just having a bad day, you can say that without judgment. Honestly, just like if you were to break your bone or have a cold, somebody asks you how you're doing today. Oh, I've got a cold. With mental health, somebody asks how you're doing. Oh, you know what? I'm a little bit down today, but it's okay. I'm still functioning.
Yeah.
Mental illness does not always mean that you are curled up in bed. It means that you have, your emotions go through waves, and you have good days and you have bad days, and that's okay. And we need to get the message across that is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So within that, how did you manage with the postpartum while working? And was this something that you had to hide, or were you supported within your work environment at that particular time?
So when I was struggling with the postpartum depression, I was off on maternity leave. In Canada, at the time, we had 12-month maternity leave.
Oh, wow.
And that was actually part of the problem, though, because I didn't have to go out. I didn't have to force myself out of the house.
Yeah.
I could just curl up in that ball. And I'm not saying that, I want the maternity leave in Canada to be shortened at all. But I think for me, if I'd had something else that required my attention, something that I could pour my energy into, maybe it would have given me a little bit of distance from what I was experiencing at home and given me another purpose on top of being a mother. And once I did go back to work, now I am the owner operator of my own company. So, the days that are difficult for me, that actually helps me because I have to get out of bed. My staff need me. I need to be in my office and functioning and showing them how to be strong and how to keep moving. And they don't know the reality of my situation. There's no reason that they should, or maybe they'll find out through this interview. But, I find it makes it easier to deal with my mental health, knowing that others need me.
Yes.
It gives me a purpose. It gives me a reason to get up. And that helps me.
Yes, 100%. So as this journey was obviously very personal to you, what do you hope to achieve in sharing your story and the book with others, and that you hope other women will learn? And is this book also for men? Because I think, it's one thing to talk about, as a woman, but I think from a support perspective, is this something that men can also read up about or read your book and help give them a greater understanding and be more compassionate?
I think it's absolutely critical that anyone and everyone read this story. While it is my experience with postpartum depression specifically, it is one example of an individual and their mental health journey. Yes. I think it's very important that people see that you can struggle with your mental health and still be incredibly successful. I am very proud to say that I believe I am very successful. Yes. I think for anyone who is having a child, and whether that is adopting or surrogacy or pregnancy of themselves or their wife or their spouse, I think it is critical that everyone in the mother's circle of trust reads this book to have an idea of what postpartum depression can manifest as. But I think it's also for the general population. This is an example of one person's mental health journey. You can gain a lot of understanding of what it's like to go through in a firsthand experience what mental health feels like for a person by reading this book. And that's really what I wanted to achieve, was getting a firsthand experience out there, because, there's a lot of books out there about expert opinions and what doctors say and what to do if you're, feeling down. But there's not a lot of people out there yet that are willing to put down on paper what their experience was like and what that really felt like. And I think that's very powerful. And I think that my book can help in more ways than just what the cover looks like. They say don't judge a book by its cover. This is a mental health journey, not just postpartum depression.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were diagnosed with PPD at the time you went through this, I understand, and you did mention this earlier, that you did not know what it was or how long it would take. How long did it take to seek help from the time that you realized that there's potentially something wrong? And what were some of the signs and symptoms, and what was the process like for you from the perspective of mental health standpoint, and how did this impact and help you?
So my postpartum depression lasted about 6 months. Okay. And after that 6-month mark, I really looked back with my nursing kind of glasses on. And it was a self-diagnosis at that time. Okay. Years later, I was struggling again and went to my doctor. And at that time, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And there are certain things that I do on a religious basis now in order to make sure that my mental health is as healthy as possible. Yeah. So it was really a look back on that specific time and realizing what had happened. The signs and symptoms for me, when I became pregnant with my second child, my daughter, I gave certain signs and symptoms to the people that are closest to me, my husband and my parents, and asked them to watch me, to, if you see certain indicators, to intervene, just in case I didn't recognize it a second time. I was very lucky. I didn't suffer from postpartum depression after my second child. But those indicators were refusal to go out of the house, general unkemptness. I don't know if that's a word, but generally, not getting up, not getting showered, not getting dressed, not taking care of the house, not functioning on kind of a base level that I would think is, I don't like using the word normal, but appropriate for a wife and a mother who is home all day long. And then for me, it was really being in touch with myself and a lot of learning about myself and triggers that I felt. So for me, it's nightmares. It's not sleeping, for constantly being tired because I can't sleep. Eating poorly even is a big one for me. Lack of exercise. These are all things that I try to do on a regular basis to make sure that I'm at optimal health.
Yes, of course.
And of course, it's not any one thing that is the key. It's the collective. It's trying to do a little bit every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your opinion or advice to others going through what you went through? And what would you like to achieve through the book to help other women, specifically with PPD?
I would really like for the support around a new parent, because I wouldn't say it's just mothers, but new parents, to educate themselves and look at what changes for that parent. And yes, that's putting it on people that, might not see that parent all the time. But if you've known someone for years, or you have a daughter or a son, and you know what they are like, and they're an outgoing type of person, if they're staying home all the time and they're not wanting to go out, or they're losing friends, or they're losing their social circle, if they've changed significantly, there might be an issue going on. I really just want to give people that firsthand experience of what it was like for me, so that they have some kind of idea moving forward, because literally lives could be saved.
Yeah, absolutely.
With awareness. You hear about parents harming themselves or their babies because they don't see an out. They think that what they are experiencing is permanent and horrible. And at times it can seem like a bad decision having become a parent. It can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
It's very tough. And I want to normalize that conversation so that people understand that it's a moment in time, and you will get through it, and you will be okay with proper support.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me to the final question. What are the 3 key pieces of advice you would like to give to other women going through this, and the key message you would like to leave our audience today?
I would like for everyone to realize that, as you said, being a new parent is not all rainbows and unicorns. It is a tough job. It is not something to go into lightly. And as much as you want to prepare for the baby and you educate yourself about the baby, you need to educate yourself on what you will be experiencing as well after you've become a parent, and what you should be concerned about for yourself. Because the only way that we can take care of others around us are by taking care of ourselves first.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's absolutely critical for society generally to accept and to embrace and to normalize that conversation around mental health. Not to stigmatize someone if they are going through a hard time, and to be supportive. And once society generally puts that kind of importance on this, then our governments will put that kind of importance on mental health. And only then will the supports truly, the regimented supports, truly be in place to get the help that people need.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us today. So if people would like to buy or purchase the book, where can they do so? And also, what are the best ways to connect with you?
I'm on Facebook. My pen name is Jessica Gale Friesen. It's Gale, and the last name is Friesen. So you can find me on Facebook. You can also visit my website, which is jessicagalefriesen.com. Karen, maybe we can put a link to it with the post.
Yes, we'll do that.
And it's also available on Amazon. Again, it's called This Will Not Break Me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, and hopefully we can have you back in the future to see where you are in your journey.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.